The Dark Knight was directed by Christopher Nolan and stars Christian Bale, Michael Caine, and Heath Ledger. Before I get started with this video, I want to give a huge thank you to Ewan Reviews for doing this collaboration with me. It's awesome for you to just accept my invitation to do a video together. So just a big thank you, and to all the viewers, go check out his channel either during or after this video. Just go subscribe to him, show him some love, and let's get into the video. So I saw The Dark Knight when I was probably 12 or 13, and it's been probably my favorite. It's within the top 3 movies for me, and it's just always held a pretty important place in my heart just for cinema, and it's one of those movies that got me into the type of filmmaking that I want to do, which is, just sort of dark, realistic, yet enjoyable to watch cinema. Because I think a lot of filmmakers try to make a really dark, gritty movie, but then the movie just lacks any sense of enjoyment to it. And they end up making it so realistic that there's nothing spectacular about it, nothing unique. And I think Christopher Nolan succeeds in making a super unique and enthralling film while still making it realistic, and you're just hanging on the edge of your seat, sitting on the edge of your seat. I don't know what that term is. But anyway, you're on the edge of your seat the entire time. And every time that I go back to watch it, I feel the same way. It's just amazing just to see every scene has this new sense of, what's going to happen. And I think Christopher Nolan's passion for filmmaking shows so much through this movie. It's such a passion project for him, because he's talked about how he never wants to do a superhero movie. But this isn't really a superhero movie. It's a movie about a real person who has a particular set of skills. I guess that's sort of a reference to Liam Neeson in Batman Begins. But anyway, he's a real person. He's not Superman, where he's impossible to beat, and he's not interesting because of how perfect he is. Same thing with Captain America. I love the character, but he's just not that interesting. But with Batman in this movie and Bruce Wayne, the Bruce side of him shows so much, but then they strike a perfect balance between Bruce and Batman and where the two meet. And then that gray area where it's like, how far is he willing to go with his enemies? And then, speaking of the enemies, Heath Ledger's Joker. This is my favorite performance that Heath Ledger has had. Unfortunately, the preparation that he took to make this role may have led to his assisted suicide, or I don't want to get into all of the dark details of that. I'm not going to make a full video about that. But just as a tribute to Heath, you were an absolutely amazing actor, and I owe so much of my knowledge of filmmaking to you. But yes, his performance of the Joker is flawless. It might be my favorite performance of any character in a movie, just because of how perfect it is and the precision that Heath took to this character. Yes, the precision that Heath took for this character and making sure that there was nothing lacking from the role. And I think that's something that every villain should have. Whether you know everything about the villain, which can make an interesting character, absolutely. I mean, you think about Thanos, you know every motive that he has. Or in the case of the Joker, the thing that makes them interesting is you don't know anything about them. And so, whichever it is, you need an actor who understands the character and is willing to go deep into the mind of them, but without becoming that character. I've always thought an actor reaches the point of greatness when they're able to perfectly portray a character without becoming like them in their real life. And I think it's also an important thing for an actor to make sure that they don't do. When you're portraying a dark character, you never want them to be who you become. And I think that that just might have been one of the many things that led Heath to his, I guess, overdose. So yeah, Heath, you were an incredible person, and obviously none of us think that you were anything like the Joker, but you gave an incredible performance in this movie. So, The Dark Knight, the overall plot is Batman having to stop the Joker from overrunning Gotham with crime, and he obviously succeeds in the end. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen this movie, but why are you here if you haven't? But yeah, so overall, this movie was not even overall, just this entire movie. It's almost perfect. The only thing that I think was I wish we got more of was Christopher Nolan. I mean, not Christopher Nolan. Commissioner Gordon. They sound something kind of similar. Anyway, like Commissioner Gordon, he was a bit lacking in this one. He gave an excellent performance in the interrogation scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in cinema history. But other than that, he wasn't as present as I wish that he was. In Batman Begins and especially The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises, he was there throughout the entire thing. He had many appearances, and I just wish that we got a little bit more of him in The Dark Knight. But other than that, I think that this movie was pretty much perfect. We got one of the best performances from Michael Caine and an incredible performance from Heath Ledger. I am going to give The Dark Knight an A.
The Dark Knight. Yeah, it's obviously the best comic book film of all time, but you've heard that way too much. What I want to tell you about, and someone I'm collabing with, his name is Isaac, we're going to tell you our first experiences with The Dark Knight. This DVD right here is the first DVD I remember purchasing. I remember being up in the store, and when they put it, when my parents placed it, on the counter, which we don't have these stores anymore, which sucks, they kind of looked at me down, they looked down at me, and this was, I think, back in 2012, right after The Dark Knight Rises came out, and they were kind of confused if I was watching it, and we got it, and I remember watching it, and the first image that I can remember of seeing it is at my grandma and papa's house on their TV, and I just remember the image of Heath Ledger's the Joker upside down at the end, and that image has stuck in my head this entire time. Anytime I think of it and I see that scene, I always think of the exact view where the TV was right here, and they got some couches on the side. I can remember it all. And I've always loved this film. I remember also watching it, I don't know when, this had to be after 2012, maybe 2015 or under, watching it in my parents' room with my friend Logan. And out of the trilogy, The Dark Knight, it's my favorite now, but The Dark Knight Rises used to be my favorite for a while until a year or two ago, and I've always loved this film. It's always been one of my favorites, and currently it's my third favorite film of all time. There's just something about the film that must have appealed to me at all ages, because Batman is my favorite superhero of all time. He always has been. I've seen lots and lots of Batman things. I've even seen this. Yeah, and on my door right over there, I have a little Batman poster, and I've always loved this film. I've always loved most of the Batman films, because there's some of those, like Batman and Robin, which are awful and some of the worst films ever made. But the Dark Knight trilogy is also my favorite trilogy of all time, so this film has always meant something to me. It's always been one of the films that has made me want to make films. What Christopher Nolan did is just, it's impossible. No one can ever top him for superhero films, and this is more than a superhero film. On the 4K cover, it says, "The Dark Knight is a remarkable achievement," and you've heard that a million times in reviews, and yeah, I'll probably review this film in a year or a few years, probably before the Batman comes out with Robert Pattinson, and that's true. What he did is impossible. No other director could handle this, and just some of the scenes in this film are just unbelievable. The practical effects. Christian Bale, he's my favorite actor of all time. I just have so many great memories with this film, along with the other films in the Dark Knight trilogy and the original Batman from 1989. And I can still remember the first time I watched Batman the movie. So is The Dark Knight your favorite superhero film of all time? I want to hear what you think, and now I'm going to go along to the person I'm collabing with. His name is Isaac, so there you go.